Sarah had always been a beacon of hope in her little town. Every Saturday morning, you could find her at the local hospital, donning her bright blue volunteer shirt and an infectious smile. She genuinely enjoyed her time there, helping families who were going through tough moments. The hospital was not just a place for healing, it was also a community where worries could be shared and burdens lightened. With warm eyes and a compassionate heart, Sarah listened to the stories of parents waiting anxiously for their children's treatments. She brought them coffee, sat with them during long waits, and offered words of encouragement. Many families felt lost in the sterile environment of the hospital, but Sarah made an effort to connect. Her cheerful demeanor often lifted spirits, if only for a moment. On one particularly chilly Saturday, Sarah noticed a new family sitting quietly in the corner of the waiting room. A young boy with big, expressive eyes was tucked under a blanket, looking frail and tired. His name was Jehoon. She approached the family with her usual warmth, noticing the worried expressions on their faces. Jehoon's mother looked overwhelmed, while his father sat with his hands clenched tightly together. "Hi there, I'm Sarah," she introduced herself gently. "Is this your first time at the hospital?" The mother looked up at Sarah, tears brimming in her eyes. "Yes, Jehoon needs surgery, but we don't know how we'll pay for it." The father nodded solemnly, his gaze fixed on the floor. Sarah's heart sank as she listened to their plight. She had seen countless families struggle, but this one felt different. There was something about the way they held each other that tugged at her heartstrings. Without thinking too deeply about it, she promised to do everything she could to help them. Over the following days, Sarah's thoughts were consumed with Jehoon's situation. While volunteering at the hospital, she began speaking to friends and community members about fundraising ideas. She reached out on social media platforms and organized bake sales, car washes, and donation drives, all aimed at raising money for Jehoon's surgery. As news spread about Jehoon's story, people came together in ways Sarah had never imagined. Local businesses offered their resources, schools organized charity events, even strangers contributed what little they could. Sarah felt overwhelmed with gratitude as donations poured in, money that would help save Jehoon's life. When the day finally arrived for Jehoon's surgery, Sarah stood alongside his family outside the operating room. She held Jehoon's hand until he drifted off to sleep under the gentle influence of anesthesia. The anxious wait felt like hours as she paced the waiting room floor with Jehoon's parents. They exchanged quiet smiles and thanks as they waited for good news. After several tense hours, the surgeon emerged with a broad smile, letting them know that the operation had gone well. Relief washed over Sarah like a warm bath. She couldn't fully express how happy she felt, knowing that her efforts had been successful. As Jehoon slowly recovered in his hospital bed, Sarah visited him every day after volunteering her usual shift. Their bond grew stronger as they shared stories and laughter amidst the sterile walls of white tiles and bright lights. She brought him toys and books to keep his spirits high while he healed. But soon enough, Sarah would discover that her act of kindness would bring unexpected consequences, a surprising twist that would change everything she thought she knew about giving and generosity. Sarah's heart felt heavy as she watched Jehoon's small frame curled up in the hospital bed. His pale skin contrasted with the bright blue hospital gown, and his big brown eyes looked even larger as they filled with worry. It was evident that he was scared, but there was also a flicker of hope hidden beneath his anxious gaze. Despite the sterile environment, he managed a shy smile when Sarah entered the room. "Hi, Jehoon. It's me, Sarah," she said, pulling up a chair beside him. "How are you feeling today?" He shrugged slightly and then let out a soft sigh. "I'm okay, I guess," he replied in a whisper. Sarah could sense that there was so much more he wanted to say. She leaned in closer, letting her warmth envelop him like a cozy blanket. "Do you want to talk about why you're here?" Jehoon's eyes darted down toward his blanket as he fiddled with its edge. "I need surgery," he admitted quietly. "It's scary." Her heart sank at his words. The thought of this brave little boy facing surgery tugged at her emotions more than anything else had in a long time. "I know it might feel scary right now, but the doctors are really good at helping kids like you," she reassured him gently. His mother entered the room just then, bringing in a tray filled with snacks and juice. She looked worn out, her face lined with worry etched deeply into her features. Catching sight of Jihoon's nurse moving about the room, she felt an overwhelming rush of gratitude for all the care they provided. "Sarah," his mother exclaimed softly, setting down the tray and rushing over to give her a grateful hug. "Thank you so much for being here today." "It's my pleasure," Sarah replied sincerely, feeling even more connected to Jihoon's family. They smiled warmly at each other, sharing a moment of understanding. An unspoken bond formed through shared struggles. Over the next few days, Sarah made it a point to visit Jihoon every time she volunteered. With each visit, she learned more about his life outside of the hospital walls. He loved drawing and playing soccer with his friends when he wasn't feeling ill. He told stories filled with laughter about silly things that happened during recess at school, or how his dog named Max loved to chase squirrels. As their connection deepened, Sarah felt like part of their family, a comforting thought during such challenging times. One afternoon, she brought some crayons and paper along with her. Watching Jihoon's face light up gave her joy unlike any other. "Let's draw together," she suggested excitedly. Jihoon grinned ear to ear as they both started doodling on their sheets of paper. They transformed blank pages into colorful masterpieces that told stories of magic castles and heroic knights fighting dragons, all while laughing and forgetting for a moment that surgery loomed ahead. Later that week, as Sarah settled into her usual spot beside Jihoon's bed, she noticed something unusual in his mother's expression, a mixture of hope and distress that seemed hard to shake off, despite her efforts to remain strong for Jihoon. "Is everything okay?" Sarah asked gently. With a heavy sigh, Jihoon's mother confessed her fears about finances and how they would manage after surgery expenses piled up along with medical bills. This conversation struck Sarah deeply. She understood that behind every brave face lay unspoken worries, the kind that could weigh heavily on families hit by sudden health crises. Determined not to let these worries linger unaddressed, Sarah promised them both that she would do everything possible to help find support for their situation. "I'll be right here with you every step of the way," she assured them passionately. By offering small gestures of comfort and kindness during those tough visits, Sarah forged an unbreakable bond, one woven from compassion and understanding, that would soon push her towards surprising paths ahead. What began as simple acts of goodwill would soon lead into uncharted territory, filled with challenges she'd never anticipated facing for herself or those she cared about so deeply. Sarah sat in her small kitchen, cradling a steaming cup of tea as thoughts of Jihoon swirled in her mind. She couldn't shake the image of his worried eyes or his mother's anxious face when she had spoken about the mounting medical bills. With every sip, Sarah felt an increasing urgency to help, not just as a volunteer, but as someone who could make a real difference. She glanced around her modest home, which was filled with secondhand furniture and thrifted decorations. Like many people, Sarah lived paycheck to paycheck, making it challenging to save money for emergencies. Yet she knew that if she could bring together the support of her community, they might be able to raise enough funds to cover Jihoon's surgery. Taking a deep breath, Sarah opened her laptop and began sketching out ideas for a fundraising campaign. She knew that simply asking for donations might not suffice. She needed to create something appealing that would engage people and encourage them to contribute. After brainstorming for a while, she settled on an event that would combine fun with generosity, a community carnival. Excitement bubbled inside her as she imagined the possibilities. Games, food stalls, live music, and activities for kids. She could envision families coming together, enjoying themselves while also helping Jihoon. With newfound determination, she created flyers and began sharing her ideas with friends and neighbors. The following day, Sarah gathered with a few close friends at a local cafe to explain her plan. "I want to organize a carnival to raise money for Jihoon's surgery," she announced, eager for their support. Her friends listened intently as she shared her vision. "We can set up booths where kids can play games and win prizes. I'll ask local businesses to donate food and supplies. We can even have a bake sale." Her friends exchanged glances before one of them spoke up. "This sounds amazing! Count me in!" Another chimed in. "I can help with decorations and planning." As word began to spread about the carnival, more people showed interest in helping out. Local businesses eagerly offered sponsorships, donating items like pizza, drinks, and even gift certificates for raffle prizes. Sarah was amazed by how quickly the community rallied around Jihoon's story. With each passing day leading up to the event, Sarah worked tirelessly alongside her friends and volunteers. They met regularly, often staying late into the night to finalize details and decorate signs promoting the carnival. Together, they made colorful banners and organized game materials, everything from ring tosses to face painting stations. On the day of the carnival, Sarah awoke feeling jittery with excitement and nerves combined. The sun was shining brightly, promising perfect weather for their big event. As she arrived at the park where they had set everything up, she was greeted by a flurry of activity. Laughter filled the air as families began arriving. Seeing people enjoy themselves, children giggling while trying their hand at games, filled Sarah with overwhelming joy. She couldn't help but smile as she saw Ji-hoon's mother walking through the crowd, a look of gratitude lighting up her face. "Thank you so much for all this," she said as they hugged tightly. "I can't believe how much everyone cares." "I'm just getting started," Sarah replied warmly. "We're going to raise enough money today to help Ji-hoon get better." As the day unfolded, people came together in ways Sarah had never imagined. Families were laughing, sharing stories, and even making new friends while working toward one common goal: supporting Ji-hoon. By the time the sun began setting on that beautiful day, they had raised a significant amount of money. Although tired from all the effort put into organizing such an event, Sarah felt invigorated by what they had accomplished together as a community. Little did she know that this was just the beginning of an unexpected journey that would further connect her life with Ji-hoon's family and lead her down paths she never anticipated exploring. The day of Ji-hoon's surgery arrived, and Sarah felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. As she stood outside the operating room, she could hear the sounds of nurses and doctors moving about, preparing for the procedure. Sarah's heart raced as she clutched Ji-hoon's mother's hand, wanting to offer her strength during this uncertain moment. "I'm so nervous," Ji-hoon's mother admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "I understand," Sarah replied softly, squeezing her hand reassuringly. "But the doctors are amazing, and Ji-hoon is so strong. He's going to be just fine." As they waited, Sarah couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought them to this point: the carnival, the outpouring of community support, and the bond that had formed between them all. It felt like a whirlwind of love and effort united for one cause: saving Ji-hoon. After what felt like an eternity, the surgeon finally emerged from the operating room, a smile breaking across her face. "The surgery was a success. Ji-hoon did wonderfully, and he'll be waking up shortly." Relief cascaded over Sarah like a wave. She turned to Ji-hoon's mother, whose eyes shimmered with tears of joy. They embraced tightly, both overwhelmed by the weight of good news. Later that day, once Ji-hoon was settled into his recovery room, Sarah visited him. His small body lay comfortably beneath the covers, and he looked peaceful despite the IV in his arm. As he stirred awake and saw her, a smile crept across his face. "Sarah!" he exclaimed softly. "Hey there! You did it, Ji-hoon!" she cheered. "You're a champion!" His eyes sparkled with triumph as he listened to her words. "I felt brave," he said, his voice still shaky but filled with pride. Sarah felt a warmth spread through her chest at his response. This little boy had shown remarkable courage throughout the entire process, and now he was on the road to recovery thanks to the community's efforts and their collective love. As days passed and Ji-hoon healed, word spread about his successful surgery and Sarah's role in making it happen. The community rallied around her with an outpouring of gratitude. People began stopping her in the streets, expressing their appreciation for her selflessness and determination. "Thank you for caring so much," a neighbor told her as they bumped into each other at the local grocery store. "What you did for Ji-hoon is truly inspiring." Sarah felt a blush creep onto her cheeks as she waved off the praise. "I just wanted to help," she replied humbly. It was a team effort. Everyone came together to support him. Despite her modesty, she couldn't deny the feeling of fulfillment swelling inside her. Each kind word and smile from the community became fuel for her spirit, reminding her that acts of kindness could create ripples of hope. One evening, during one of her visits to Ji-hoon's hospital room, she found his mother sitting quietly beside him, flipping through a photo album filled with pictures of their family before everything changed. She looked up at Sarah, emotions etched on her face. "You have no idea how much this means to us," she said softly. "You've given us hope in a dark time." Tears stung Sarah's eyes as she absorbed the weight of those words. She realized that her act of kindness had transcended mere financial assistance. It had rekindled hope in a family facing despair. As Jehoon continued his recovery, Sarah began planning ways to remain involved in his life and support his family beyond the surgery. She envisioned creating a support network not just for Jehoon, but for other families facing similar challenges. With each passing day, she committed herself even more to making a positive impact in their lives, small gestures evolving into bigger dreams fueled by love and compassion. Little did she know that her journey would take unexpected turns and lead her into deeper waters than she ever anticipated, forever altering not only Jehoon's life, but hers as well. The weeks following Jehoon's successful surgery felt like a joyful whirlwind for Sarah. She basked in the warmth of community support, and her bond with Jehoon and his family deepened with each passing day. She had visited them often, bringing gifts and encouragement during his recovery. Friends and neighbors continued to express their gratitude for her role in helping Jehoon, and Sarah reveled in the sense of purpose it brought her. One afternoon, as she sipped coffee in her living room, she flipped through the local news app on her phone, scrolling past cheerful updates about community events and family stories. Her finger halted over a headline that made her stomach drop. Local businessman linked to Korean Mafia arrested. With a sense of dread, Sarah clicked on the article and read about Mr. Kim, Jehoon's father. The report detailed his alleged ties to organized crime, mentioning various suspicious activities connected to him and suggesting that he was a well-known figure in the Korean Mafia. Shock washed over her like a cold wave. How could this be possible? The man she had come to know as a devoted father to Jehoon, filled with concern and love, might be involved in something so dangerous and illicit. Feeling unsteady, Sarah put her phone down, trying to process this startling revelation. Memories of Jehoon's father flashed through her mind. The kind way he had spoken to her, the anxious love he exhibited towards his sick son, and how grateful he seemed when she'd offered to help. Could someone like him really be part of an organization known for its ruthlessness? As dissonant thoughts raced through her head, Sarah felt a sinking feeling in her gut. She had poured her heart into helping their family, believing they were just an ordinary family facing extraordinary circumstances. Now everything felt tainted by doubt. With mounting anxiety, she decided to speak with Jehoon's mother when she visited them later that day in the hospital. She needed to understand more about this situation, not just for herself, but also for Jehoon's sake. When Sarah arrived at the hospital, she found Jehoon nestled comfortably in his bed, his cheeks flushed with health from his recent recovery. His mother was sitting nearby, flipping through a children's book with him. They looked happy together. For a brief moment, Sarah put aside her worries and engaged with both of them like normal. "Hey, you two! How are you feeling today?" Sarah asked brightly. "Much better," Jehoon exclaimed, his excitement evident. "Look at this picture I drew." He proudly held up a colorful drawing of a dragon soaring above a castle. "That's fantastic! You're an amazing artist," Sarah praised, forcing herself to smile despite the questions swirling in her mind. However, as they chatted about Jehoon's recovery and future plans, Sarah's heart raced at what she needed to ask. Finally, as the conversation shifted back toward more serious topics, she took a breath and said gently to Jehoon's mother, "I came across some news today about Mr. Kim, about his past. I just want to know if everything is okay." Jehoon's mother paused for a moment, her expression darkening slightly before settling into one of resolve. "Yes," she began slowly but firmly. "My husband has made some mistakes in his life that have caught up with him now. We are trying to move forward together as a family." Sarah's heart sank as she absorbed those words. Did that mean Jehoon would be affected by his father's actions? Would they face consequences? But before she could voice any more questions or concerns, Jehoon piped up excitedly with another topic unrelated to his father. His innocence brought warmth back into the room, but the storm inside Sarah continued to churn. As she left the hospital that day, conflict brewed within her. She wanted to protect Jehoon and offer love and support without judgment of his family's complicated reality. But how could she do that when faced with such heavy implications? With each step back home, uncertainty gnawed at her mind. Little did she know that this revelation would set off a chain of events that would soon unravel everything she thought she understood about kindness and loyalty, leading her into deeper waters than she ever imagined. As days turned into weeks, Sarah found herself trapped in a whirlwind of emotions. The joy she felt from Jehoon's recovery and the warmth of community support was constantly overshadowed by the unsettling news about Mr. Kim. She had dedicated so much of her time and energy to helping Jehoon's family, yet now she grappled with the heavy weight of uncertainty. Every time she visited the hospital, doubts crept into her mind. Was she enabling a family connected to criminal activities? What if her kindness inadvertently brought trouble to her own life? The thought made her stomach churn. She cared deeply for Jehoon and his mother, but the implications of supporting them gnawed at her conscience. One evening, as Sarah sat in her living room, she replayed conversations in her head, moments spent with Jehoon's family, filled with laughter and hope. But now those memories felt tainted. She couldn't shake the nagging feeling that perhaps she had been naive to believe their struggles were purely medical and financial. The reality was more complicated than she had ever wanted to acknowledge. Determined to find clarity, Sarah reached out to a close friend named Mia, who worked in law enforcement. They met at a local cafe where the aroma of coffee mingled with the chatter of patrons. Sarah took a deep breath before spilling out everything that weighed heavily on her heart. "Mia, I need your advice," she began hesitantly, stirring her drink nervously. "I've been helping this family, Jehoon's family, and I just found out his father is involved in something dangerous, something criminal." Mia listened intently, nodding as Sarah spoke about Mr. Kim and the article that had shaken her world. "I thought I was doing something good. Now I don't know what to think or how to feel." After a moment of silence, Mia leaned forward. "Sarah, it's understandable to feel conflicted. You did help Jehoon when he needed it most, and he's just a child who deserves support." "But what about his father?" Sarah interrupted, feeling frustration rise within her. "What if my kindness puts me or my family at risk? What if they expect more from me because I've helped them?" "Helping someone doesn't mean you have to agree with everything they do," Mia replied gently but firmly. "You can still be there for Jehoon without getting involved in his father's choices." Sarah mulled over Mia's words while sipping her coffee, realizing there might be a way forward that didn't involve abandoning Jehoon or compromising herself. Acknowledging that not all families are perfect didn't diminish the love and care she felt for them. "Maybe I can focus on Jehoon," Sarah suggested slowly, a glimmer of hope emerging through the fog of doubt. "But what do I do if Mr. Kim tries to involve me in his life?" Mia considered this for a moment before responding thoughtfully. "Be clear about your boundaries from the start. Support Jehoon, but don't feel obligated to get pulled into anything else." Feeling empowered by this conversation, Sarah left the cafe with renewed resolve. She would continue visiting Jehoon and being present for him as he healed without letting his father's actions dictate their relationship. In the following days, Sarah made it a point to keep things light during her visits with Jehoon and his mother. They played games together and talked about school as he prepared to go back once he was fully recovered. Conversations filled with laughter and creativity that reminded them all of life, beyond hospital walls. However, despite this newfound determination to protect herself while offering love and support to Jehoon, shadows still danced at the edges of Sarah's mind whenever Mr. Kim was mentioned or when they spoke about their future plans. As uncertainty loomed over every interaction with Jehoon's family, Sarah found herself caught between two worlds, one filled with compassion towards an innocent boy needing care, and the other fraught with potential dangers linked to his father's past. Little did she know that navigating this delicate balance would soon lead her toward decisions she had never anticipated making, a choice between loyalty and self-preservation that would test everything she believed about kindness and sacrifice. As Sarah navigated her complicated feelings about Jehoon's family, she found herself increasingly aware of the shadows lurking around them. Despite her efforts to maintain a distance from Mr. Kim's life, whispers of the Korean Mafia's influence seeped into her awareness, making every visit to the hospital feel more like a gamble than an act of kindness. She had hoped that focusing solely on Jihoon would keep her safe, but the situation was proving to be more precarious than she had imagined. One evening, after a long day volunteering, Sarah was walking to her car parked in the dimly lit lot outside the hospital when she felt a sudden chill run down her spine. The hairs on the back of her neck stood up as she noticed a group of men loitering near the entrance. They were dressed sharply, their demeanor radiating an unsettling confidence that made Sarah's instincts flare. She quickly turned away, hoping they wouldn't notice her. But as she approached her car, one of them called out to her. "Hey, you!" he shouted, his voice echoing through the empty parking lot. With her heart racing, Sarah hesitated, glancing back over her shoulder. The man stepped forward. His expression was unreadable but assertive. "You've been helping Jihoon," he said casually, as if it were nothing important. "Yes, I have," Sarah replied cautiously, attempting to sound calm while dread churned in her stomach. The man smirked slightly. "You know who his father is, right?" "Yes, I do," she stammered, suddenly feeling exposed and vulnerable under his piercing gaze. "Good," he replied simply before taking another step closer. "Just remember that families like theirs don't always play fair. Be careful who you associate with." With that chilling warning hanging in the air, Sarah quickly got into her car and locked the door behind her. As she drove home, fear gnawed at her thoughts. Had she inadvertently put herself on someone's radar? The implications of this encounter weighed heavily on her mind. In the days that followed, Sarah received several unsettling phone calls and messages from unknown numbers that left no doubt about their origins. One night, while she was preparing dinner at home, the hot lights flickered ominously. Her phone buzzed with a text. "Keep your distance from Jihoon and his family." The message sent a shiver down her spine as panic set in. Who was watching her? She relayed these incidents to Mia during their next coffee chat at the cafe where they often met. "I don't know what to do," Sarah confessed, anxiety spilling over as she spoke. "It feels like I'm being cornered." Mia leaned back in her chair thoughtfully. "This isn't something to take lightly," she said seriously. "You need to protect yourself first." "I care about Jihoon," Sarah exclaimed desperately, "but I can't ignore the danger either." Mia nodded in understanding, but added firmly, "Sometimes showing support means making tough decisions for your safety and theirs." After their conversation ended, Sarah felt lost in a maze of conflicting emotions. Her heart wanted to stay by Jihoon's side and provide support, but fear began to dictate every action she took. At night, sleep eluded her as shadowy images of menacing figures lurked in her imagination. Moments with Jihoon replayed in her mind like bittersweet memories tinged with anxiety. She wrestled with whether she should cut ties entirely or find a way to stay involved without exposing herself further. Determined not to abandon Jihoon altogether but feeling increasingly isolated by fear and uncertainty, Sarah devised a plan for how best to show support without putting herself at risk. She reached out to local charities that supported children's health initiatives. Perhaps there were ways they could help Jihoon without direct involvement from Mr. Kim's family. But just when it seemed like hope might shine through the dark clouds gathering around her life again, another ominous message arrived one evening. "Stay out of our business." Sarah's heart raced. It felt like invisible chains were tightening around her choices. The two worlds she found herself caught between grew ever more suffocating. Little did she know that this battle for balance would push her even further into unexpected territory, a place where choices could lead not only toward loyalty or self-preservation, but also toward potential danger threatening everything she held dear. Feeling increasingly overwhelmed by the threats and the weight of her choices, Sarah decided that she could no longer navigate the treacherous waters alone. The fear that had settled in her mind, gnawing at her insides like an angry animal, pushed her to seek help. She needed guidance and support, not just for herself, but for Jihoon as well, especially since his safety now felt intertwined with her own decisions. With a resolve hardening within her, Sarah made her way to a local police station one afternoon, after careful consideration. The sun was shining brightly outside, but it did little to ease the anxiety swirling inside her. As she walked through the doors, the scent of coffee mingled with the sterile air typical of government buildings. Approaching the front desk, she felt nerves flutter in her stomach. "Hi there," she said tentatively to the officer on duty. "I need to speak with someone about a sensitive issue." The officer glanced up and motioned for her to take a seat in a small waiting area nearby. A few moments later, a woman named Officer Daniels came out. She was professional yet approachable, giving off an air of confidence that instantly calmed Sarah's racing heart. "Hello, I'm Officer Daniels," she introduced herself warmly. "What brings you here today?" Taking a deep breath, Sarah recounted Jihoon's story, the life-threatening surgery, the fundraising efforts she had organized, and her growing affection for his family. But the moment she mentioned Mr. Kim's ties to the Korean Mafia, a shadow crossed Officer Daniels' face. "This is serious," Officer Daniels said firmly upon hearing about the intimidating encounters Sarah had experienced. "You're not in any trouble for helping Jihoon. That part of your story is incredibly admirable." "But what about Jihoon?" Sarah hesitated, tears beginning to form in her eyes. "I care about him and his future, but I'm terrified of what might happen to us because of his father." Officer Daniels leaned forward earnestly. "I understand your concerns completely. It's commendable that you want to help Jihoon, but you've got to think carefully about your safety as well." After listening attentively to all of Sarah's experiences, her volunteer work at the hospital, their shared laughter playing games during visits, it became clear that she viewed Jihoon as more than just a patient. He was part of her heart now. "I can provide some resources that may help assure your safety," Officer Daniels continued. "We can also investigate Mr. Kim's activities further if necessary." While Sarah appreciated this offer of assistance and protection, it tore at her conscience, wondering if seeking help would potentially put Jihoon's family under scrutiny or make things worse for them. Knowing the dangerous reputation surrounding organizations like the Mafia weighed heavy on her thoughts. "You have to be careful," Officer Daniels added gently but firmly, emphasizing how dangerous such situations could be. Not only for Sarah, but for Jihoon as well, if tensions escalated. Threats made against civilians living with families involved in crime can lead to escalating situations. As they continued discussing options and resources available through law enforcement, which included support hotlines and safe reporting methods, Sarah found herself feeling torn between two opposing forces: her desire to continue caring for Jihoon amidst growing threats and the awakening sense of urgency regarding personal safety. After their meeting concluded, Sarah stepped outside into the sunny afternoon feeling overwhelmed yet empowered with newfound information. She wrestled internally with whether speaking out would reveal too much about Jihoon's family or risk crossing dangerous lines she didn't want to approach. In spite of all this uncertainty trailing after her, like dark clouds, the choices piling up like stones on her shoulders, she knew one thing: cutting ties entirely was not an option. Even if pursuing guidance from law enforcement put more pressure on both herself and Jihoon's family than they could bear right now. With determination flooding back into her spirit despite lingering doubts echoing throughout each thought process, battling for dominance inside her mind, Sarah set forward back toward familiar grounds filled with care, while promising herself to make every effort possible in protecting not just herself, but also offering whatever support possible for this brave little boy still fighting his own battles ahead. The tension in Sarah's life seemed to reach a boiling point one chilly afternoon when she received an unexpected call from Jihoon's mother. "Sarah, can you come by the house? Mr. Kim wants to talk to you," she said, her voice laced with uncertainty. "Of course," Sarah replied, masking her apprehension as she felt a wave of anxiety wash over her. The last thing she wanted was to confront Mr. Kim alone, especially after everything she had learned and the threats she faced. Yet her concern for Jihoon and his family pushed her forward. Arriving at their modest home later that day, Sarah knocked gently on the door. Jihoon's mother opened it with a hesitant smile. "Thank you for coming," she said, gesturing for Sarah to come inside. When Sarah entered, her heart raced as she spotted Mr. Kim sitting on a worn couch with an expression that was not what she had expected. Instead of the intimidating figure described in the news articles, he looked weary and vulnerable, a stark contrast to the shadows that hovered around his reputation. "Thank you for coming," Mr. Kim said, his voice steady but softening as he addressed her directly. "I've heard about all you've done for Ji-hoon." His acknowledgement surprised Sarah. She had anticipated a confrontation or perhaps anger directed at her involvement with his family. But this, it felt like stepping into uncharted territory. "I just wanted to help," Sarah responded cautiously, unsure how to interpret his tone or the twinkle of gratitude in his eyes. Mr. Kim nodded slowly, his face reflecting a myriad of emotions: regret, pride, perhaps even hope. "You've gone out of your way to support my son when I have not been able to be the father he needs," he admitted quietly. "For that, I am grateful." As he spoke, something shifted in Sarah's perception of him. Behind the facade of crime and danger lay a father who desperately cared for his child's well-being, but seemed trapped by circumstances beyond his control. Ji-hoon's mother entered the room, carrying some tea and snacks as they settled into their conversation more comfortably. The atmosphere transformed from tense and uncertain to one filled with warmth and familial bonds, a strange contrast given Mr. Kim's history. "I know my situation might put you in danger," he continued after taking a sip of tea, his gaze steady but revealing vulnerability beneath the surface. "But I want you to understand how much your kindness means to us." Sarah felt something shift within her. Here was a man willing to acknowledge his shortcomings while showing appreciation for someone who offered compassion in dark times, a side of Mr. Kim she hadn't anticipated seeing. "Ji-hoon is brave," she replied softly, glancing toward his mother, who nodded gratefully. "He deserves all the support he can get." "This is just another reminder that family is everything," Mr. Kim murmured thoughtfully, looking down at the floor momentarily before meeting Sarah's eyes again with renewed sincerity. As they talked over tea about Ji-hoon's recovery progress, the little quirks he'd displayed during their visits and dreams for returning to school, the conversation gradually shifted away from discussing threats or criminal ties toward hopes and aspirations for Ji-hoon's future. In that moment, sitting there with Ji-hoon's parents, Sarah realized that despite the darkness surrounding their lives, they were still striving for light and hope amidst chaos. They were still human beings, deserving of kindness against all odds. It was then she understood. Though their lives were tainted by crime and misfortune, did not mean compassion should wane, nor should judgment stand above hope. It only needed another gentle hand willing enough to lend support without attaching conditions or fear. Feeling empowered by this unexpected exchange, one involving two worlds colliding yet pooling together for one shared goal, Sarah found herself more determined than ever to maintain her bond with Ji-hoon, while cautiously navigating around any potential dangers linked directly back through Mr. Kim's actions. As she left their home that evening with warmth filling her heart despite lingering uncertainties echoing in her mind like whispers promising caution ahead, Sarah stepped forward into an even more complex reality, laden with both possibilities and risks, yet offering undeniable proof that empathy could create bridges where none once existed, even among such contrasting lives intertwined through hardship. As days turned into weeks, an uneasy tension lingered in Sarah's heart. Her initial gratitude toward Mr. Kim had grown into a mounting concern, not just for Ji-hoon, but for the future of their connection, as uncertainty and fear twisted in her mind. After the revealing conversation over tea, Sarah realized that she needed to confront Mr. Kim again, not with anger or fear, but with open honesty about her feelings regarding his past and its implications on his family. One afternoon, Sarah mustered her courage and decided to visit the Kim household again. The sun was setting, casting golden rays through the trees as she walked up to their front door. She knocked gently, feeling the butterflies leap in her stomach. When Ji-hoon's mother opened the door, a welcoming smile spread across her face. "Hello, Sarah, come in," she said cheerfully. As they settled in the living room together, Ji-hoon was busy coloring on the floor, completely absorbed in his artwork. His innocence brought warmth to Sarah's heart amidst her turmoil. "Is Mr. Kim home?" Sarah asked cautiously, wondering how to navigate what lay ahead. "Yeah, he's just in the back," she replied, pointing toward a doorway leading into the kitchen. "I'll let him know you're here." As Jehoon continued to draw with vibrant colors, Sarah found herself gathering her thoughts until Mr. Kim appeared shortly after. He stepped into the room with an air of casual confidence, tempered by a hint of curiosity about why she had come. "Sarah," he greeted her warmly, leaning against the doorframe with a slight smile that masked his growing concern as he read her expression. "Can we talk for a moment?" she asked firmly yet gently. "Of course," he said and motioned for her to lead the way first. They stepped outside into the quiet backyard where a gentle breeze rustled the trees, suddenly creating a calm atmosphere amidst their unease. As they stood together under fading sunlight, Sarah took a deep breath before venturing down a path filled with raw honesty. "I want to understand you better," she began cautiously, searching for the right words. "Your life, your past. It complicates everything when I think of Jehoon." Mr. Kim remained silent at first, but then nodded slowly, as if he expected these concerns from her, his eyes betraying a flicker of vulnerability beneath his resolute exterior. "Believe me, I never wanted this for my family," he finally admitted, his voice low. "I made choices during my life, bad choices, that put me in this position." "What does that mean for Jehoon?" she pressed further, feeling tears prick at her eyes as she thought of what lay ahead for his young life. "Will he suffer because of your past?" Mr. Kim looked out across his yard contemplatively before responding. "I try every day to protect him from my mistakes." He paused before continuing, sadness etched deeply upon his face. "It doesn't always work out how I'd like, but being part of this family is all that matters to me now." His sincerity struck Sarah unexpectedly. She could see how much pain this man carried within him, battling through regrets while yearning to create a better future for Jehoon despite dark shadows lingering behind him. "I want to see goodness mirror itself in Jehoon's life," Mr. Kim declared passionately. "If there's one thing I've learned from all this—" He took another deep breath before adding softly, "It's that family values matter most, even after going through hell." Sarah's heart softened at his truth. In that moment, she recognized them both as imperfect humans striving for connection amidst harsh realities, a sentiment tied together by love yet covered in scars. "I will do everything I can to support both of you, but I need you to be honest with me too." Sarah pled earnestly as sincerity shone brightly from within her eyes, a plea that illuminated their shared values, even amidst moral complexities. Mr. Kim nodded seriously, an understanding passing between them like an unspoken promise forged beneath difficult circumstances. With renewed hope burgeoning within Sarah's spirit, her vision now threaded through layers of empathy and understanding, she resolved not merely to help, but also commit herself fully towards fostering homegrown goodness wherever possible within their lives moving forward. Guided by values transcending criminal history while showcasing redemption nurtured through love, their unlikely connection emerged sturdier than ever on this path toward healing, one forged through confronting truths even in maddeningly complex realities woven intricately around people simply trying to do their best amidst all odds. In the following weeks, Sarah grappled with her decision regarding Jehoon's family and her role in their lives. The conversation with Mr. Kim had stirred something profound within her, a sense of responsibility not only to help Jehoon flourish, but also to navigate this complex reality without compromising her safety. Each morning, as she brewed her coffee, she found herself reflecting on what it truly meant to support someone while simultaneously protecting herself. Determined to come up with a solution that honored both her compassion for Jehoon and the risks associated with his father's past, Sarah began researching local charities that focused on children's health and welfare, organizations that prioritized helping families in need without crossing perilous boundaries. The more she explored, the more determined she became to create a network of resources that could assist Jehoon and other families like his, without requiring personal involvement that could threaten her safety or lead back to Mr. Kim's complicated world. One day, she met Mia for lunch at their favorite cafe. As they sipped their drinks, Sarah recounted the steps she had taken towards building connections with local charities. "I think this could work," she explained excitedly. "By partnering with these organizations instead of getting too involved personally, I can make a difference without endangering myself or Jehoon." Mia leaned in closer, impressed by Sarah's newfound sense of direction. "That sounds wonderful. You're right. You can still provide support without exposing yourself to potential threats." With new energy fueling her spirit, Sarah reached out to several organizations. Citations on their websites glimmered like beacons of hope amidst chaos. As she set meetings to discuss how they could collaborate to assist families touched by illness, a sense of purpose bolstered her courage against any uncertainties lingering in her mind. At home one quiet evening, while preparing a presentation for one of the upcoming meetings, Sarah felt an unexpected warmth at the thought of creating positive change for others like Jehoon. Her heart swelled with gratitude for the opportunity to bring light into difficult circumstances. This was exactly what she had wished for when she first began helping families at the hospital. As autumn leaves fell gently from trees outside her window, a few days later brought an opportunity for Sarah to put her plan into action. She organized an informational event along with one of the charities she'd connected with, a gathering focused on awareness and resources available for local families dealing with medical issues. When the day finally arrived, she marveled at how quickly things had come together. Tables filled with brochures lined the entrance, while friendly faces stationed at each booth greeted attendees with enthusiasm and concern alike. The outpouring from the community proved there remained much goodwill even amidst trying times. As people strolled through booths exploring available resources or listening attentively during workshops led by caring professionals from various fields, medical experts sharing vital insights on children's health and family therapists offering emotional support strategies, Sarah stood at the forefront feeling proud of what they'd accomplished. However, just as she began to feel invincible regarding all that lay ahead, fear still whispered doubt into the corners of her heart. A reminder of the shadows connected back to Jehoon's family. Glancing out across the crowd filled with smiling parents cradling their children close against them, choosing joy over hardship was important, but made more poignant knowing how chaos loomed just beneath the surface. When Jehoon and his mother arrived at the event later that day, seeing their bright smiles lit up Sarah's chest like radiant sunshine breaking through dense clouds. "Thank you for supporting us," they exclaimed genuinely. "We are all in this together," Sarah replied warmly as they embraced, her resolve stronger than ever, as hope sparked around them, even while remaining aware of lurking dangers drifting nearest among these precarious circumstances. That moment crystallized everything for Sarah. No matter how intimidating chaos spread its roots into complexities around them, her mission became clear. Creating pathways toward healing offered possibilities for everyone involved. Strengthening communities by shining light through obstacles stood more significant than any lingering fears about past shadows creeping behind closed doors, with renewed commitment igniting within her soul. The choice was made. Sarah would continue advocating for not just Jehoon, but countless children who deserved brighter tomorrows, built upon love forged through empathy displayed in action, all while ensuring her own well-being remained paramount amidst every decision ahead. As Sarah reflected on her journey over the past months, she found herself filled with a mix of emotions: gratitude for the connections she had made, pride in the positive changes she had initiated, and a deeper understanding of the complexities surrounding kindness and compassion. Her experience with Jehoon and his family had opened her eyes to the intricate layers of human lives that often dwell beneath the surface, revealing stories of struggle, resilience, and hope. In her heart, Sarah knew that every act of kindness could have ripple effects, reaching far beyond what one might initially perceive. She remembered her initial motivation to volunteer at the hospital, to help families in need, and how that simple desire had transformed into something much greater than herself. It was not just about assisting Jehoon through his surgery, it was about creating a network of support for families battling similar challenges. As she sat in her favorite chair one evening, sipping tea while watching autumn leaves dance outside her window, Sarah thought about Mr. Kim's heartfelt admission about wanting to protect his son from his mistakes. It reminded her that everyone has a story, a background shaped by choices made under circumstances often out of their control. This realization fueled Sarah's compassion even further. It was easy to judge someone based on their actions, but far more profound to understand the struggles they faced. Determined to ensure that Jihoon's future was filled with hope and opportunities rather than overshadowed by his father's past, Sarah committed herself to nurturing this newfound bond. She envisioned a community where children like Jihoon could thrive without the burdens of their parents' mistakes weighing them down. With this mission in mind, Sarah continued collaborating with local charities dedicated to children's welfare. Organizing events became second nature as she connected with other passionate individuals who believed in uplifting families facing adversity. The sense of camaraderie among those advocating for change invigorated her spirit and reinforced her belief that kindness could indeed conquer darkness. One chilly Saturday morning, Sarah stood before a crowd gathered at one such event, a fundraising drive aimed at supporting families dealing with medical crises. As she shared Jihoon's story alongside heartfelt accounts from other families who benefited from community support, she felt an overwhelming sense of purpose wash over her. Their stories intertwined like threads in a tapestry, representing resilience and unity. Together, she proclaimed passionately as the audience listened intently, we can create pathways for healing and opportunity for these children. The cheers that erupted from attendees filled her heart with warmth. It became clear that the seeds of kindness planted earlier were now flourishing into something extraordinary. Days turned into weeks as more events unfolded, each gathering further solidifying Sarah's commitment to make significant changes within her community while honoring Jihoon's journey toward recovery. Yet amidst these triumphs lay an understanding that life remained unpredictable. Shadows still lingered from Mr. Kim's world. Uncertainty was a reality they all faced together. However, rather than succumbing to fear or judgment regarding others' past choices, Sarah chose instead to focus on fostering positive relationships built on mutual respect and understanding, embracing every opportunity to uplift those around her while remaining vigilant against potential risks. Through this transformative journey, Sarah learned invaluable lessons about empathy, the kind that transcends obstacles and connects people through shared experiences. It taught her that compassion is not only about extending help when times are tough, but also about recognizing humanity in others, regardless of their circumstances. As she looked toward the future filled with possibilities yet uncharted, Sarah felt an unwavering resolve fill her heart. With each child's smile lighting up their path ahead, she would continue advocating for brighter tomorrows where love triumphed over fear, a promise etched deeply within, not just for Jihoon, but every child deserving hope amidst adversity. Kindness would remain her guiding light, a beacon illuminating ways toward healing while navigating life's complexities, all while ensuring safety without losing sight of compassion amid every choice made moving forward.